Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Agent's Edge. My name is Ryan Polimeni. Today is a continuation of the digital advisor series that we're running. So last video, if you haven't watched it, make sure you go back and watch it. The last video that we shot was on marketing, and it's the basics of it. Remember, we're getting ready to do a boot camp that's going to do a really big deep dive into all these kind of things. So you want to make sure you become a part of that. But this part of the digital marketing series is delivering the message. We talk about marketing, finding your target demographic, and then reaching out to them, but having a message that you're delivering that gets their attention to want to contact you. And this is kind of what we've become really, really good at, is preparing the message and delivering the message to get them to take action. Remember, nothing happens if they don't take action. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit about what we do from a webinar perspective. So we do two things, webinars and email marketing, right? But we email market to get people onto a webinar, or we'll get them just to fill out a survey. The survey is very simple. It's just a questionnaire on things you want. If you're a doctor, you have questions on this, fill it out, and someone will get back to you. Good call to action, never going to be as strong as a webinar. You could get more you can get quantity with that, may just not be the same quality. And what we found is in doing our webinar series, the quality has been phenomenal. Why? Because even if somebody only spends a half hour with you, by the time that half hour is over, you know what they know so far. Meaning, if I'm teaching somebody on taxes, I know that after 30 minutes, they know this much about taxes because I just taught them it, right? But it's enough to have the conversation and for them to listen and want to talk to you after because they need more information or they need the in-depth financial plan that you offer. See, your job is to deliver, but they have to come to you to get that piece of the puzzle, which is either a benefit analysis, a tax plan, Social Security optimization plan, retirement plan, estate plan. You have to be able to deliver those things, especially if you're going to start working with higher net worth individuals. So part of your message you have to deliver, and let's use, if I'm going to do a webinar, right? It's kind of like back in the day when you were in high school or in college and you had to write these essays, right? You had the beginning, the body of it, and the ending. And as you could tell, I failed in English class because I don't even know what those are called anymore. But you have those three pieces, right? And it's the same thing with a webinar. So your webinar, as you begin, should be anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes, okay? Keep your webinars 30 to 45 minutes because if you go longer than that, you will most likely lose people unless they're paid to be there, which most people are not. They're on their own time listening to you talk. So when you begin your webinar, obviously the opening has got to be about the topic, and you're sharing a little bit of information about the topic. You have disclaimers, very big in our industry, to make sure you have disclaimers in place so that, listen, this is an educational workshop. You may hear me talk about taxes, but I'm not a CPA. You may hear me talk about estate planning. I'm not an estate planning attorney. These are just general information. This is just general information I'm going to go over today. And you got to do it to protect yourself, and they appreciate it as well. But then you get into the agenda. And I think this is really important. So as you go through, if you've ever seen one of my webinars, you'll see that the agenda I spend a little bit of time on because you're enticing people to want to stay. And you obviously hold the best for last, right? Because they have to stay to the end to get it. But the agenda is really important because it needs to be all the topics within a topic that you're going to hit that pertains to them and that's the reason why they came. So for an example, I just shot a webinar for a marketing campaign that we're doing on the top 10 tax mistakes people make in retirement. So of course, as I'm going through this webinar, that's just one example. I could give you a million of ones that we do, but that's a really good one because that can pertain to anybody. And all you have to do is put in the top 10 tax mistakes that federal employees make, that state employees make, that doctors make. It's all the same. They all make the same mistakes, right? So, but the message has to be delivered in a way that's educational, but also kind of nerve-wracking for people watching it going, "Oh, I didn't realize that." And let me tell you one thing that you need to ask at the very beginning of all of your workshops. And it's something that people really need to think about is when I go through my agenda, and we're going to talk about Roth conversions, Roth, traditional tax, pensions and tax, how your Social Security is taxed, RMD planning, blah, blah, blah. I go through all these different things, and they're going, dang, there's 10 different tax things. My favorite question to ask is, so before I get into this, let me ask you this. What's your retirement strategy? And I pause. And I used to love doing this live when I'm going through, this is the agenda, we're going through all these things. And by the way, before I get started, what I want you all to think about is, what is your retirement strategy? And then you get that deer in the headlight look, because they realize that you've got an entire agenda of things they're going to go over, and they may have one thing strategized, but what about the other 10 things? Right? So that's such a powerful question. I love asking that, because your job during an educational webinar, no matter what the topic, is to get people thinking differently than they've ever thought before. Let me give you an example. I like to give analogies to people, and I like to ask a lot of thought-provoking questions when I'm hosting a webinar, and you do it in a subtle way, not being narcissistic and just being a jerk when you ask it, right? So one of the things I like doing is giving the analogy of two different things. One, if you were to build a house, would you start building the house and literally just build it on sand or on dirt, or would you build the foundation? Right? Because you have to think about these things for a second. If you're going to build a house, wouldn't you build it on a foundation, on a solid foundation? See, that's financial planning. Financial planning is building your finances on a solid foundation. Now, the foundation of every of every financial plan are taxes. So you have to build a strong foundation and work off of that. The other analogy that I love to give is, I say, have any of you ever put together a puzzle before? Right? Maybe you have. I mean, think about it. Let's just use a 200-piece puzzle. And I love giving this analogy because it really kind of puts things into perspective for people. I said, listen, what's the first thing you did when you bought a puzzle? Everybody's like, you do the borders, right? But before you do the borders, what's the first thing you did? You chose the table that you were going to put your puzzle on to do the whole thing. And when you flipped over that 200-piece puzzle, it's kind of chaotic, isn't it, right? Because now you have 200 little pieces of cardboard everywhere that you have to start putting together, and it's chaotic because it's just a big mess. And I said, that's what your financial situation looks like right now for most of you, is this chaotic mess. You got pieces everywhere. But why, when you do a puzzle, do you build the borders? Because the borders of a puzzle represent the foundation of the puzzle. And as you put the pieces together, it makes putting the rest of the pieces strategically internally together a lot easier. So hear me out on this. When you're working with your clients and you're talking about this kind of stuff in a webinar, that is something that people can relate to. Because you can simply say, well, look, what we're going to do is I'm going to help you build those borders, and then strategically put each piece to your puzzle, your retirement puzzle, inside that. People can appreciate that analogy because their finances are chaos. Your job is to bring it back, build the border, the foundation, and build it internally for them piece by piece strategically. So as you're going through your webinar, that's the kind of thing that you talk about in the middle of it. You go through the agenda and you then break things down simply, piece by piece. Don't overwhelm people with all these fancy numbers and this graphs and statistics. They don't care. They don't care. They want to know how this is going to affect them in the most simple way that you could humanly explain it to them. See, one of the reasons that we've been able to have the success that we've had is because I've had the ability, with practice, wasn't always like this, to be able to take the complexity out of complex situations. I can take a tax plan and bring it down to kindergarten level. I could take the federal benefit market and bring it down to a kindergarten level that anybody can understand. And it allows you to deliver a message that people can hear, they can digest, but it's enough to where they say, I definitely need more information. I need my personal numbers ran. Because as you get to the end of the presentation, it should be about, don't you think it would make sense to get your numbers ran? So I went over all these things, but if you don't know your numbers, how would you know what to do? So you got to put that things into perspective for them, where they go, okay, I'm going to hit this button that says fill out this survey, or at the very end of the webinar, the survey automatically pops up. They fill out what they liked, what they didn't like, comments and questions. Would you like a free benefit analysis? Yes, I would. Now you got the hottest lead ever because you have someone that sat through 45 minutes of you talking. They had enough interest that you created for them to hit that button that says, yes, I want I want to know. And during the digital marketing bootcamp that we're doing, I'm actually going to take you through one of my presentations so you can see from start to finish what it looks like, how we break it down, and how I present it. Because that is such a key component, is presenting. There's an art to presenting, and I want to share with you how that's done. So again, this is the second part of our digital advisor series, was kind of understanding how to deliver a message with a call to action. The next step to this is going through the fact finder in your first presentation, because that's where you're going to find all the opportunities. So if you like this video, hit the like button for me. Comment below if you thought this was helpful. If you want to see other stuff too, and let us know what you want to see, we'll be more than happy to shoot it. Make sure you subscribe, and do me a favor, hit the share button and share this with somebody who needs to hear this message, that wants to get their business to the next level as well. If you've ever wanted to learn how to write over $5 million a year in annuity volume, Level Up Advisors Academy was built for you. In this academy, we talk about things like how to do massive annuity production, assets under management, big whole life and IUL cases. Look, 5 years ago, before I built this product, I didn't even know how to spell the word annuity, but a simple system that I learned allowed me to write over $5 million a year in annuity production, and now over $10 million a year. I took what I know, the system that I've built, and I put it into Level Up Advisors Academy for you to be able to have access to it 24/7 on demand. If you've ever wanted to take your business to the next level, this academy was built for you. Click the link below to get access today. Look forward to working with you in the future.